Righty ho, it's finally time to get down to some work on the Trident T160. It's been a long time coming. We'll come back to that. The reason why I've not been working on the Trident is mainly because of the Matchless. So over a year ago, well over a year ago, I knew that the Trident needed some work doing to it, but I thought I'd just get the Matchless Model X running right. And here we are, sort of 18 months later, with a Matchless minus a gearbox and a right old sorry state or sorry story generally all round. Because if you watch these videos, you know that the primary chain snapped, wrapped itself around the clutch, and fractured the gearbox casing. As we speak, he tried to TIG weld the gearbox casing, but it wouldn't TIG weld due to, we think, some sort of impurities in the metal in the gearbox casing. So the casing is now away with someone who does gas welding, because we thought that maybe it would gas weld, although it doesn't. You know, even if it doesn't TIG weld, so we'll see. So that's why. So this is why I've taken this bike off the bench, because it's going to be a while before it's running again. Because I also took the opportunity to get a few parts plated and that, since I've got the whole thing apart, and they'll take ages to get done. So and then when the gearbox shell does come back, and I've got to rebuild the gearbox, or if the gearbox shell can't be mended, then I've got to adapt another gearbox that wonderful chap called Seb has sort of lent me, to begin with, and then we've got to it's got to be adapted. The mountings have got to be adapted to fit this bike, because it's not quite the right gearbox. So this is off for a while. The Commando sorted, fantastic, all running, all done. Hurrah! I don't have to touch it. The my little Honda Solo moped, as ever, just runs as and when you want it to. It just needs a mild service now, but it can run whatever. The T160, I've got two problems. Now the first one is I've got an oil leak from somewhere on this rocker box, and I thought maybe it was the tappet inspection cover, so I fitted this billet cover to replace the sort of standard cover, but that's not fixed it, because I wasn't sure where the leak was coming from. I think now the leak is probably coming from the base of the rocker box, and I think that perhaps the gasket has moved, but we'll find out when we get it apart. So I'm going to take that off. What I'm going to try and do this time is I'm going to leave the head on and this rocker box, and just remove the front rocker box, which I know you can do, but I'm a bit hesitant to do because of the stresses it's going to put on everything. But I think that's being lazy, rather than take the whole head off. I thought I might do that. I've got to take, that means taking the exhaust off and everything. So I'll see about that. The second problem is one that I've had for, what is it now, 9 years. And that is problem with the carbs. Or when I say the carbs, I know that this left-hand carb is blocked, and it needs cleaning out. So they've got to come off. But generally, I've never had this running right, so it doesn't hesitate at low revs. You know, that pickup, that sort of about 2,500 revs, it hesitates. It's fine, sort of tick over, and it's fine when you get the revs up, but that 2,500 rev thing, it doesn't like it. And I've spent 9 years trying to get this sorted. Now the thing about that is that my T150, which I've now sold, has exactly the same carb setup as this, exactly, and it ran perfectly from day one, absolutely perfectly. Never with the the original jettings and everything. Put the carbs on, exactly the same, open Belmars, Amel Premier carbs. It's run perfectly ever since. This has never ever run perfectly, and I'm going to have a look at the carbs and see if I can find any problem. However, I've learned, I did a bike a few years ago, if you remember, and it just wouldn't run. Even though I cleaned the carbs out and everything, I just couldn't get it to run with, with the carbs. And when I put my carbs on it, it ran perfectly. It was definitely the carbs. And even though I thought I'd cleaned everything and I thought everything was running fine, it wasn't. And I've had exactly the same with a Matchless. When I cleaned it all out, I guess there was a problem with the carb, and I cleaned it all out and still wasn't quite right. So I sent it off and I had it all re-sleeved and everything. And I even bought a new float chamber. It still wasn't right. And in the end, I had to fork out for a brand new carburettor, and that was it. It's worked perfectly. But what I'm saying is the old carb, I'd cleaned it out, I'd had it re-sleeved, I'd checked all the jets, I checked that all the airways and pilot ways were all clear and everything, and yet it still wasn't right. And I know that because I put the brand new carb on, and wow, transformed it. In this case, it wouldn't tick over properly, and the telltale sign was the air screw. When you had to screw it fully in for it to run, and even then you felt like it wanted, it still wasn't in far enough, but there was nothing left. There was obviously some kind of air leak somewhere, but I never found it. I don't know what was wrong with that carb, and that brings me back to these, because will I ever find a problem? The other thing being that I did read, I think the other day, was that someone had that problem. So in the end, they said stuff it, and they fitted McCuney carbs instead. And the result was it was exactly the same. It still had that stutter at 2,500 revs. So, but I'm going to give it a go because, the main thing is to get it running. At the moment, it's not running. This carb's blocked. It's only running on 2 cylinders. But I want to get it so it runs perfectly. And then, of course, it needs a service generally and a clean up. So I'll be doing that as well. So sort of I'll be servicing it as well. But the main thing is getting this carb sorted and stopping that oil leak. Also, time's coming up where I probably need to change these silencers. They're lovely silencers, but let's get in close. And despite the light, can you see the sort of like crazing on it, where the rust is just starting to get under the chrome? That sort of crazy crackling. But if I turn the light off, it might. There, you can see it better. It's just beginning to bubble, and it's all whoops, there, just sort of like worm cast type things on the chrome. And it doesn't show it on the camera, but it is there. So I'm thinking, but at some point I'm going to invest in new silencers. Either that, or I can get this one's not so bad. This one's a lot better. It's the other side. I might just have that one re-chromed. I don't know, because there is a place that will do it. A lot of places won't re-chrome silencers because of all the gunge that's inside. I don't know. That's something to consider. But anyway, there we are. This is the work we're going to be doing. Will I ever get to the bottom of the carb problem? I don't know. I doubt it, but I'm going to give it a damn good go, because of course these are brand new carbs and one thing or another. But we'll see. We'll see. The problem, of course, being that you never know whether you sorted it until you get the bike out on the road and give it a road test. So, but we'll do our best. Right. So next video we'll start taking tank off and so on. The first thing we're going to do is that rocker box, and obviously we'll take the carbs off anyway to get them out of the way. But we'll do the oil leak first, and then we'll come on to the carbs.